Good afternoon everyone, hope you're well. What I wanted to do again was just jump on here and show you some of the bits of analysis for the week ahead, give you an insight into exactly what happened last week with the markets and throw some ideas out there of where potentially we can see the markets popping to this week. So first and most importantly, what I'm going to do is start with the dollar index, okay, one of the most important charts that you will find when it comes to trading the markets. If you can understand the movements of the dollar index, okay, you can most likely find yourself some very, very nice and profitable positions on every single other Forex chart, okay. When the dollar is rising, you have currencies such as the Aussie dollar and the New Zealand dollar weakening. So it's very good to have a strong understanding of the US dollar market first of all before looking at other charts. So last week the US dollar was extremely bullish. We pushed up just shy of the 93 level, okay, and that's quite a key level for this market. And it was a very, very strong bullish week. So I just dropped down into the daily time frame, and as we can see, we've got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So pretty much all week was a lot of bullish momentum on this market, pushing this market to 92.92 at the highs, okay. Now that said, extremely bullish on the dollar index. We are now at that key sort of 93 level, which when we move into this week, what we would actually ideally like to see is a little bit of a retracement, maybe even a sell-off, and potentially even a reversal of the market for the US dollar. Now actually, as we look into a higher time frame, we can see that the market has been overall bearish, okay, since literally COVID times, around the 23rd of March onwards. We've literally just fallen from 103 all the way down to nearly 89, okay, so a huge change of direction on the US dollar. And now, although we are in this kind of bullish shorter term move right now, the overall trajectory, if we look at the highs and the lows, we are creating lower highs and obviously subsequently lower lows as well. So that leads me to believe that potentially we'll be looking at reversals, okay, around this 93 level, maybe even popping up a little bit higher, maybe 93.25 potentially. But I think we can then see the dollar actually at least sell off for a retracement, but potentially even sell off and kickstart that kind of reversal phase for this market, okay. So dollar index this week, where are the kind of areas that I'll be looking and focusing on is the rejections around here, around this 93 level, and pushing us back down to the 92 level, okay. So a good kind of 100 pips or so on the dollar index. Now what I've done, as I do every single Sunday, is I go through every single market, okay, and I look at the current momentum on the higher time frames. I then scope out areas whereby I believe there could be certain retracements, whether or not I think a market could be reversing from a specific point, and therefore where the market should be heading into the week ahead. Now on the right hand side you can see the watch list, and you can see that I've got these color coordinated greens, reds and oranges. Now oranges are potential reversals, okay. Greens will be potentially bullish markets for the week, and red will be potentially bearish markets for the week, okay. Analysis is done pretty much the same way every single week, and the bias is normally around 80-85% correct. I'm not going to go in full details as to exactly how I do this, but I am going to highlight those key regions across these markets where we can be looking at this week for specific markets to move to and from. So I'm going to start off at the top. We've got Aussie dollar CAD. Now the reason I've got this in in orange is because I believe we've come to an area, to a point now where we could actually reverse, okay. We could actually reverse and we could head to the upside. So what that does is that means that what I want to look for on this market is pushes up into the 9650 level, okay, nice round figure. If we see that push up into there, I will expect a pullback first of all, before, if my reversal bias is correct, then we'll be looking for a higher move, okay, up to that 9.7 region. This is my kind of thought process currently on Aussie dollar CAD. Now, as it stands at the moment, again, just jumping back to the weekly time frame, we are still bearish, but we are finding buyers, okay, we are finding buyers around this 9.550 level and higher, okay. So that's why I wouldn't consider this market overall bearish, okay. It really, again, depends on the dollar. If the dollar continues to strengthen, then the Aussie dollar will continue to weaken, which will actually push this currency down further. So that's my Aussie dollar CAD. So I'll be looking and watching around this 96.5 level, and then also if we do pull back into this level here, 96, I'll be focusing on the price action around these two levels to find shorts from 96.50 and then potential longs from 0.96 depending on what the DXY chart is doing. Now, if we jump onto Aussie dollar CHF, okay, again, this one we've got a bullish market. Okay, you can see this market has been rising pretty much all year, again, since COVID. Since COVID began in March. Looking at the movements on the weekly, okay, the bias was correct last week. We had a bearish move on this market, and now we are looking for that potential long setup, okay. And what I've done here is I've just highlighted again those areas of interest that I will be focusing on to see if we can find those opportunities to enter the market, and this will be anywhere 7,150 and below. Ideally, the best opportunity for those long positions will be down here around 7,150. So I will be expecting that market to kind of pull back into these regions and then pop back to the upside and create that kind of potential equal high, depending on how much time we have in this week when this market does the moves I hope for it to do. Aussie dollar JPY, okay, again, just starting on that weekly time frame, we've got that kind of very strong bearish candle, but we've had that big push up from 82.5, okay, big push from 82.5, leading me to believe that this week we are going to be looking for more bullish prices on Aussie dollar JPY. Now, we never want to be buying at the top of a trend. We always want to wait for some sort of retracement and some sort of idea of where the market could actually pull back to give us that better opportunity and that better entry and risk reward, okay. So I'm just going to demonstrate this for you. If, for example, my kind of view on this market is this here, okay, and pushing up into those highs, if we were to just be buying where we are right now, we have to have our stops in a sensible place, okay. A sensible place for our stops ideally would be somewhere down here. Now, this is 150 pips for a potential 150 pip reward, okay, not really something that I'd be too interested in. If we were a bit more patient, okay, and we wait for those certain levels to be hit, okay, as you can see, I've highlighted this kind of 83 level right here, and we've also got this 83.7 level. If we can wait for those kind of areas to be hit, you can see the difference this makes in our risk reward. We'll be looking at more of a 3-to-1 risk reward, which is obviously a lot better. And that's why we have to be patient. We have to mark out these areas to ensure that we find those perfect locations to enter the market, and they give us the highest probability, and also they give us a much better risk reward if we are correct. So that's my thought process with Aussie dollar JPY. Aussie dollar NZD, again, let's just jump onto the weekly. Very bullish last week, okay, extremely bullish last week. We are now at quite a key level, 1.10, okay. The market does certainly like to reject this level, but we have not quite met this level yet, which leads me to believe we will be pushing a little bit higher on Aussie dollar NZD. Now, looking onto the lower time frames, we might not get the opportunity to enter this market because we would need a pushback into the 0.850s, 0.820s, and therefore that's quite a drop on this market, okay. Where I could see this market drop into would potentially be into these areas here, okay, these lows. It would be nice to see the market drop into here, and then we can look at those positions. But ideally, if I was to enter this market, I would probably want to wait to see this, which might not happen. But this is a kind of move I would want up into that 1.10 level. So that's my thought process with Aussie dollar NZD. Aussie dollar USD, we've got this in yellow because potentially I do see this market reversing, okay. If we look on the weeklies, we are bearish, okay, pushing and rejecting those 0.79, 0.80 levels, and what we can see is we've now come and hit this level of support around sort of 0.76. Okay, quite a strong level of support in the last couple of months, and therefore I do believe we're going to see a push up from this, up into this 0.77 level. Okay, if we just drop down again into those lower time frames, this is the kind of move I'd be expecting on Aussie dollar USD. And if I wanted to catch this move, you're lucky because I haven't done this bit already, I would be looking around these areas here, okay, around these areas here, to be looking for buyers on this market. And again, this will give us that better risk reward, and we can see there that market, if we were to long from this position here, okay, stops somewhere around this region, targets up here, we've got a 2-to-1 risk reward. Okay, this would be the first level. Okay, the second level I'd be quite interested in reaching would be around here. Okay, and then we've got an even bigger risk reward. But again, Aussie dollar US dollar, it's going to depend on what DAXI is doing. We're going to want some USD weakness in order for this sort of trade setup to play out. So we've got CADCHF. I'm going to sort of do this a little bit quicker because I understand this video will be quite long. Bullish on this market. We are coming to a seriously strong level, 0.76, 0.5550, 0.75. And if we drop down onto the lower time frames, we've already had that kind of retracement, that push back down into these levels, 73860, all the way down to 73660. And we've already almost had an attempt at this 0.75 level. So if I was again to find that opportunity on this market, I would want to see a decent enough retracement into this region here. And as you can see, there's a lot of liquidity around these areas. Okay, we've got here, we've got this one here, 7400, 7410. We've got a lot of liquidity here. So this is the kind of region that I would like to see the market pull back into before potentially initiating those long positions. Okay, not really one of my favorite markets, CADCHF. It's quite slow. It's not really something I'm too interested in getting involved in during the week. We then got CADJPY. Okay, CADJPY has finished the week bullish. We have rejected quite strongly off of this 88 level, and this 88 level is quite a strong level. Okay, if I just put that line along there, you can see how we've rejected it, we broke it, we retested, we broke it, we came back underneath it, we retested. So you can see how strong this level is. Extremely strong level, this 88 level. Now we've had one attempt at pushing up out into this level. So my thought process on this is we could have that, another kind of opportunity to attempt to break these highs, and if we were to be doing that, then again we want to find that retracement in a nice sensible area, and then we want to take that retracement to those highs. Okay, that would be the kind of opportunity, but I would be very conscious of what happens around this region here. Okay, 87.7, because I do believe that potentially we could be rejecting these 88 levels and dropping lower. So this is my kind of thought process here. CHFJPY, jumping into the weekly. Again, you always notice that this is exactly the same. We always do the analysis based on weekly, daily, 4 hourly. So weekly first to get your bias, daily second to get your areas of interest, and then finally the 4 hourly just to kind of fine tune those interests. So we've got pretty much a flat weekly candle, so not really much can be said about this market. It's also in a very strong range pretty much since the end of last year, not really pushing any higher than 118 and not pushing any lower than 116. So we're in a 200 pip range on this market at the minute. Now I do like this market for that potential short to actually break this level of support. Okay, to break this level of support that we've got here. This level of support is around 116.25, and what I would kind of want to see is actually us start to reject this 117 level. Okay, reject this 117 level and then push down into those 115. So that could be a good potential opportunity for this week if we can see that strength in the in the Japanese yen, or the weakness continue with the Swiss franc as well. We've then got Euro Aussie dollar. So Euro Aussie dollar has certainly been falling very hard, especially since the latter part of last year, all the way down into these 1.53s, 1.5350 levels. We are now again at a key and very important level, this 1.53. And as you can see, we've already had that kind of double tap, double rejection of these levels. So what I'm anticipating on this market is I want to first of all see how the market is going to react around these levels. We could get that perfect opportunity for a long position and push us back into the 5-650s. But again, if the USD tends to be weak this week and we do have that reversal, then what we will see is completely opposite. We will take out these levels and we will head down to the 1.51s levels and probably even further. Let me just have a look on the weekly. So yeah, we've got these levels around here, 1.5150. 5150 would be quite a key level to be focusing on. So you've got a couple of potential scenarios with this. I don't normally like to give multiple scenarios because I feel like anyone can do that, but really it does depend on what the USD wants to do. Okay, and personally I favor rejection around here and pushing up, but if that reversal does occur, then we could see this drop a lot further. We've then got EURCAD. Okay, so EURCAD bearish last week, continued bearish bias this week. I don't think we've got any reason until these 1.47 levels, 1.4750 levels, to actually start calling a reversal on this market. So as always, we want to wait for that perfect retracement. The area of interest for me is 1.4880, 1.4875, maybe even 1.49 because we've got that round figure just above. And we want to see that market kind of pop into this level first, take out all this liquidity. We've got a lot of liquidity here. Okay, take out all of this liquidity, pop into this region, and then we can look at initiating sells. Okay, look at initiating sells for the week ahead. So that would be the perfect scenario. Again, all of these scenarios won't necessarily pan out. The market could just go from where it is now and it won't give us that opportunity to enter. But we are quite the patient traders. We like to wait and see what the market does, and we also want to wait for those perfect opportunities rather than just jumping into something where the risk reward is not favorable. We then have EURGBP. So EURGBP, again, just jump into the weekly. We can see quite bearish. We are certainly slowing down, but I still think we have some downside pressure, okay, into these 8.5 level, maybe a little bit lower. That would be my key kind of target for this market. And what I would like to see, again, whether or not it will happen, it really depends. We have to pop up about 50 pips at the beginning of the week, okay, which will push us up into this region here. And then if we can pop up those sort of 50 pips, we can find that nice entry, okay, nice entry around these levels, and then with our short into the 8.500s and below. Okay, so that would be the thought process behind EURGBP. We've got EURJPY. Again, weekly first, always weekly first. We've got that bullish market. Okay, we've had a little rejection, a little kind of cool down and cool off for this market, but then what we can potentially see is that buyers have really come in strong. Okay, buyers are really coming strong. So we want to see the market kind of retrace back down this candle, because on a regular basis, this is what happens. Okay, we have that daily push, and then we have that retracement back down to give us that better opportunity to then take the market higher. Okay, we don't want to be buying right at the top of this candle. Okay, so EURJPY, hoping for that pull back down to these levels. Okay, hoping for those pullbacks down to these levels here, where we can then take off, and we have a big potential trade in our hands, 120 pips or so to that first target there, and maybe even the 130 level just above. Euro NZD, we've got that bullish outlook on this, very strong last week. As you can see, we pushed all the way back up to here. Okay, but we are kind of rejecting towards the end of last week, and we do have a very strong level here around 1.67, 1.66, even 1.65 and 64. So we have a lot of buyers around this region. As you can see, every time the market has come into this region, we've had those buyers push the market out with a lot of strength. Okay, so that's why on this one we would like to see that market pop back into those 1.6700s, whereby we can then find that opportunity for the entry. This is where we would like to see that entry, and this is where we'd like to see that pullback. Okay, so that's what we would be after, that's what we'd be looking for on Euro NZD. We've got Euro USD. Okay, Euro USD at the minute, okay, is still very bearish. I think potentially we could even pop down into those 1.17 levels okay, jump down onto the daily, and we can see these kind of equal lows that we've got here as well, so it'll be a nice level to grab liquidity. If the USD does decide to turn, this is a nice place whereby that market could turn from. Okay, another kind of key point that I'm just seeing now is that 1.1650 level roughly. Okay, so we could see that market pop into this kind of box here. I just kind of neaten that up for you guys, and that would be a very nice place to find an entry on this market long as well. Again, we just need to really watch that DAXI, okay, the DXY, and we need to really see what could potentially be happening as we progress throughout the week. We then got GBP pairs. Okay, the majority of GBP pairs are bullish. Okay, at the minute, EURGBP is bearish, therefore showing us that the pound could be strengthening this week. So again, we just look down for the better opportunities on this market. Okay, we're already rejecting the 8.1 level, so we can nicely see this market come into that. Maybe 1.7950 would be ideal, maybe 1.8 depending on how that market reacts, but then we could have that perfect opportunity for the long positions here. So again, we watch price action around this region, and then we look at entering. I'm going to speed through these now. So GBPCAD, okay, we've got that bullish outlook at the minute based on last week, okay, where we've rejected quite strongly those 1.72 levels. So we want to see the market come back into this region. 1.7290 down to 1.7250 would be quite nice, and then we can look at potentially getting that market pushing up to these highs here. Okay, we've got GBPCHF, very similar setup, okay, pushing back down into these levels in the start of the week, and then actually progressing with the original trend in towards the end of the week. 150 odd pips up for grabs in this one. We've got GJ, okay, again looking for that movement down into this region, 149.5, maybe even 150, and then looking for those long positions. GN, exactly the same. We've got two areas of interest. Okay, I think this market's gone quite crazy, so we might not get that pullback that we want. So we're going to keep an eye on the price action around 1.96. But if we do drop any further, we could see the market come back down here before then we could look at those long positions. GBPUSD. So we had a little bit of recovery last week. Okay, we pushed back up all the way to 1.3780 odd, even tapped into that 1.38. Okay, if I wanted to continue shorting this market, okay, I would want to wait for us to get here before doing so, and this would be my target down here. Once we reach these levels, we are at a very strong level. Okay, we are at a very strong level, and these levels would be a decent level to be looking for longs, especially if the USD does decide to weaken. Okay, if the USD does decide to weaken, we can see a big push up on this market all the way back up to those highs around 1.42. okay, it'd be a very big trade, probably be multiple trades, but yeah, pushing all the way up to that region there. Now we've got NZDCAD. Only got about 5 more to do now, guys. Thanks for listening, and hopefully I haven't bored you too much. NZDCAD very bearish last week. We're pulling into this area now, which is of quite importance, so I do think that we could see some bounces from this region. Okay, again, I'm just going to be watching the USD. In terms of short positions, there's no real opportunity for shorts here. It will actually be looking at these lows and seeing if we have that kind of potential for the market to bounce. Okay, that will be what I'll be looking for on this market, but this is probably not one of my favored ones for the week. NZDCAD, looking for this market to pop back up to the 6600 level, and then we can look at initiating those shorts. NZDJPY, again very close to a nice point of entry, which will be around here. We also have another one here as well. Okay, whether or not we can push that higher to those kind of 78 levels, but otherwise, yeah, around here I'd be quite interested in entering. NZDUSD, so again, really depends on DAXI, pushing back to here and then looking at taking those shorts. But if the USD is going to continue, okay, continue its bearish, actually reverse and continue its overall bearish trend, then we could see this market pop up even higher. We then have USDCAD. Okay, USDCAD on the week was quite bullish last week, and therefore I'd be looking at those opportunities to buy this USD CAD around here. But overall we are in a bearish trend. Okay, overall we are in a bearish trend, so we would probably be steering clear of this market to see what happens and what DAXI does. USD CHF highs, absolute highs for a long period of time, since July last year. So with this market, we don't want to be trading against that trend. We're probably going to be looking at pulling back into here before we can then take that position on the long side. And then we've got exactly the same USDJPY popping down into this region before pushing up into the highs there. And then finally gold. Okay, gold. Now let me just jump into the weekly of gold and show you what I'm quite interested in. Okay, we are at a very key level. Okay, we are at a very key level on gold, which is this bit here. Okay, very strong. This is where the market had bounced from before. This is where the market has now pulled back all the way from nearly 2080 all the way back down, even scraped those 1680 levels. Okay, and because we've pulled back that hard, we are going to find that the market is going to react and bounce, especially if the dollar weakens as well. So what normally happens is when the dollar is strengthening, gold will weaken, and when the dollar is weakening, gold will strengthen. So jump down onto the daily. Okay, we're bullish currently on the weeklies at the minute, and now you can see that we're kind of finding that support around this 1720, 1725 level. Now we could push up on this market as high as 1775. Okay, we could certainly push up as high as 1775, and that could quite easily happen into the next week because gold does have some crazy moves sometimes, but as you can see, we are rejecting this level very strongly. So the best scenarios, okay, the best scenarios for this market is anything below 1730. Watching that price action, especially 1725, you've literally rejected 1725 for pretty much the whole of March. Okay, half of March, sorry. So I would be focusing on seeing that market drop into this region before then looking for buy opportunities. The first target is just shy of 1750. The second target, if we can take out those 50s, would be 1775. So that's what I'd be looking at. Overall, when we look at the daily time frame, or even on this time frame, we can still see that market is just creating lower highs, okay, and lower lows. So we can't necessarily be bullish on this market just yet because we're just solely creating these lower highs and lower lows right now. So the market could come all the way up to, say, even this point here, 1800, and it's still not necessarily bullish because we haven't taken out this previous high. Okay, only when we take out this previous high, hopefully I'll be able to draw this okay for you guys, only when we've taken out this previous higher can we then consider bullish positions, and then we can start looking at riding trends and finding points like here to take that market for its next high, and then waiting for those retracements, okay, finding points again before taking that next move higher. Okay, but for now and for this week, I do expect us to push up to the 1747, 1750, maybe even as high as around 1770, 1775, to find those perfect opportunities. Okay, so guys, I hope you find that useful. Just give you a bit of an insight into how we look at the markets on a weekly basis and how we do our Sunday, our sort of Sunday analysis, and to just give you an insight into the world of trading and exactly what it takes to be a trader. There's a lot of patience involved. There's a lot of chart analysis, and to be able to understand the actual certain structures of the market. And literally, just one of the key things I think, and the most important thing when it comes to trading, is risk management. Okay, we can all look at a chart and potentially analyze a chart, but if you can't control your risk management correctly, then it doesn't matter how good a trader you are. It's what's most important is your risk management and your money management, and also once you're in the trade, okay, how you manage that trade. So any questions, anything that you guys want from us or want to see, please let us know in the comments. And if you have come through this far to watching it, thank you very much. Please make sure that you subscribe to our channel and like this video as well. Thanks, guys.